I hope his cigar chokes him.
Darling, you take him too seriously.
Do I? If he were not a duke, no one would know him. The beast.
But what did he do that's annoyed you so much?
From the moment we sat down to dinner, his only conversation was women over 40.
Then you could never have been in his mind, because he kept saying you were only 38.
I was born on the same day as his stepmother, and that damn woman can't keep her mouth shut about anything. Oh, how I dislike him.
How ridiculous you are. Liqueur?
Even as a boy, he was unpleasant. If he hadn't been a duke, and we hadn't been little snobs, not one of us would have even dared to take him on our knee. Hideous child. How I detested him.
I'm sorry, because I like him so much.
Why is he always dining here?
I've told you, I like him so much.
You wouldn't marry him.
How far is it from here in a taxi to St. George's, Hanover Square?
10 minutes. Why?
If he asked me to marry him tonight, I'd undertake to run it in 5.
Helen, you're mad.
Am I? It's an attractive complaint.
But he literally hasn't a penny in the world.
My father was a far-seeing man. He bottled some pickles.
Give me some brandy. No, I don't want any. This is terrible, terrible. Will you believe me if I tell you he hasn't one penny in the world? And if he married you, it would only be for your money.
I can't see that makes him very terrible. A lot of women have lived with him for his.
Keep silent a moment. I think I'm going to have a stroke. What do you see in the brute?
Everything. He's not bad looking. He has a charming voice. He's witty. And I adore him.
If you married him, in a year you would find he is none of those things.
I should?
19 years ago, I was asked in a church if I would take a man to be my wedded husband, and I answered yes. I looked at him and believed he looked and was everything that he wasn't. He then drove me home for the purpose of proving to me that he was everything that he was.
You needn't be the least bit alarmed. The reason the Duke of Bristol comes here so often is he's fond of my cook, he approves of my champagne, my cigars are in perfect condition, and my coffee is the only coffee worth drinking. But to me personally, he is entirely indifferent. I don't exist.
Thank God.
That's cruel of you.
The reverse is kind of me. A girl of 22, an orphan, and one of the richest women in England. You're at the mercy of any man like him.
Even if you loved someone terribly, would you never marry again?
I don't say that. But if I ever did, I should need to know a great deal more about the next one than I did about the last.
I don't see how that can ever be done.
I can. I should take him away alone for 1 month, on approval.
But, darling, supposing at the end of the month you found you didn't like him, what would you do then?
Give him his railway fare and send him home again.
I wish you would do it, darling. It would be a marvellous precedent for other women if you did.
I am thinking very seriously of doing it.
You don't mean that.
At your table tonight, there was a man. Richard, whom I have known all my life, and who, ever since I have known him, has, for causes of shyness or lack of means, not been able to quite tell me that he loves me.
I've always believed he adores you, and he's one of the nicest men in the world.
On the surface, he appears everything that is desirable. But married to him, he may be none of those things. That is what I am thinking seriously of finding out.
You're going to take him away on approval?
I say I may. Of course. Careful.
Well, here we are.
Curiously enough, I am able to control my excitement.
Splendid.
Sing us something, Helen.
I'm sorry, Richard, but I can't sing.
I congratulate you. That is a great accomplishment. I suggest, my dear, our revered old friend Maria dances us the Charleston.
I am neither your dear, or your revered, or your old friend. And I suggest you try and say something intelligent.
Naughty, naughty. That's the 3rd time that you've spoken harshly to me tonight.
Oh, don't do that. I hate it.
You know, I feel rather in the mood to engage 100 lovely women, all with lovely voices, seated about on lovely divans, to sing to me in a whisper.
If you had a little more brain, you would be in an asylum.
Richard has either enjoyed your joke enormously or else has eaten something indigestible. Oh, Richard, tell them that story you told me at dinner.
What story?
Oh, you know, about the man who said he couldn't sing.
I don't remember it.
Now, don't be absurd. Of course you do.
I tell you, I don't.
You tell coarse stories, Richard.
Certainly not.
Then tell it.
Well, it has one word in it which I don't care to use before ladies.
Leave out the word.
Well, then the story has no point.
Oh, come on, I'll tell you. There was an elephant...
You'll do nothing of the sort.
Exactly. I thought so. What I was saying to you just now, what does any woman know about any man?
Yes, but what is much more to the point is, what does any man know about any woman?
Having made the remark of a complete imbecile, perhaps you will tell us the answer.
He knows everything about her. And you nasty old lady, you thought I was going to say he knows nothing about her. Got you.
If you use the word old again to me, I shall throw something at you.
Oh, very well. But I pray that when I reach the age of nearly 41, I shan't be ashamed. My stepmother, who will be 41 in August, isn't.
Beast. Beast!
I got her that time.
George, you're a bounder.
Funny you should say that. You know, a woman I was dining with last night said exactly the same thing. Perhaps I am. Helen, am I a bounder?
I don't think so. But you have upset Maria terribly.
And if you're a gentleman, you'll at once go and tell her that you're sorry.
A gentleman is a man of courage without imagination. Now, were Maria a lady by nature instead of by birth, I would go and apologize to her at once.
Then I shall go and tell her that I am sorry for you. Helen, will you forgive me?
Do you know, there's something terribly attractive about an English gentleman. I do wish I'd been born one instead of a duke.
Why aren't you one?
Oh, it's out of the question. If I were, the middle classes and the Americans visiting England would have nothing to talk about.
Have you no ambition in life? No desire to do anything for anyone?
Do? Oh, no, my dear. The most that can be expected of any duke is to think.
Then has marriage no attraction for you?
It has always had considerable attraction for me. No less than the husbands of 3 women I have known have threatened me with it.
I was meaning some unmarried girl who was fond of you and might make you very happy.
Now, it is curious you should say that. My trustees and myself meet in committee on that subject tomorrow morning at 11.
They want you to marry?
Yes, they insist.
Are you going to?
I'm giving them my answer tomorrow at 11.
What's your answer going to be?
I don't know.
Come and dine with me tomorrow evening and tell me what you've decided to do.
Oh, that's adorable of you. That's charming of you. Really it is. You're very sympathetic, Helen.
I suppose it's because I like you.
George, I hope it amuses you to have made a woman cry.
I didn't say anything that could possibly make her cry.
Didn't you, in a sneering way, accuse her of being 41?
Yes, I did. But she isn't crying because I said she was 41. She's crying because she is 41.
Bounder.
Is she terribly upset, Richard?
I hope I never see anyone as upset as she is again. I could do nothing with her. She even asked me to tell her that story to take her mind off her unhappiness.
Did she laugh?
Laugh? It only increased her misery. I gathered the story's older than I am. By the way, the Legates are in the garden now. They're with her.
Oh, why didn't they come in?
Well, they say they don't want to. Tom says he's content to see George in the Tatler or the Sketch.
Why do people dislike me so much?
Most times you're a damnably dislikable fellow. That's why.
I believe that's what it is. You know, I'm sure it is.
I don't think so. Why don't you both come and sit outside? I must go and talk to the Legates.
Well, if you don't mind, I think it would be wiser if we stayed in here.
Very well. Help yourself to drinks.
Oh, many thanks.
Thank you. Water or soda?
No, I won't have a drink, thanks. Tom Leggett was telling me there's a rumor all over the city that you're broke.
The city, for once, is correct. Tomorrow morning at 11, I have to make up my mind which it will be, marriage or bankruptcy.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
I'm touched, Richard.
But you couldn't have got through everything.
I'm given to understand that I have even eaten the grass that my horses live on.
Oh, I am sorry.
Thank you, Richard. Tomorrow morning at 11, I, George, the 12th Duke of Bristol, a man whose very soul quivers with sentiment, whose heart beats only for romance, has to sell himself for money.
I sympathize with you very deeply.
Yes, I'm sure you
Believe
do,
me,
Richard,
I
as
do.
much as you're able to. But you see, to love as I could, you have to really understand.
I, too, have loved.
Oh, yes, quite so. But if you don't mind, I would like to restrict this conversation to ladies rather than women.
And those are the only ones that I have loved. And I don't mean ladies. Lady. I have loved for 20 years the most beautiful lady in all the world.
Why haven't you told me about this?
One doesn't wear one's heart on one's sleeve.
Do I know her?
Intimately.
Who is it? Who is it?
Maria Wislak.
Richard, When I told you the tragedy of my life, the depths of my feelings, I did not expect you to treat it with levity, make jokes about it.
Not. I tell you, I've loved her for more than 20 years.
Do you mean to tell me that you've loved that old...
Silence. If I'm not mistaken, you were about to call her by a name which would have prevented me from ever speaking to you again.
Have a drink. No, have you had too many?
I will have a drink, and I've not had too many.
Richard, dear boy, I love you as a brother, but I must say it, I'd rather see you dead.
George, I mean it. If you say one word again that reflects in the least way against Maria, Mrs. Wislack, our friendship is at an end.
Oh, very well, but you can't stop me wishing you were dead. No, no. Did you know her late husband, Arthur Wislack?
Oh, did I know him? Did I watch him with murder in my heart, treating that divine creature with cruelty, neglect, and eventually die of drink?
He hated drink.
He hated? Well, then why did he?
He chose it as being the most agreeable way of remaining unconscious whilst waiting for his release.
I warned you, George. I told you if you said another word again that reflected...
Now sit down and stop being so damn dignified. Besides, you haven't finished your drink.
On that account only will I speak to you again.
Have a cigar.
If you're apologizing to me, George, I should prefer it in the form of one of your own cigars.
Richard, if I have said something that's hurt you, I apologize. Now stop sulking and have a cigar.
Thank you.
Does she love you?
How should I know?
Do you mean you haven't asked her if she does?
Mrs. Wislack's income is at the least £25,000 a year. Mine is 300.
With or without income tax?
I'm not a fool, George.
I was always under the impression that you had at least 1,500 a year.
Yes, but unfortunately, all the horses I have been interested in have been entirely without ambition. They run only for running's sake.
We have a good deal in common. Now, I take it all back. You have given me the reason why you're right to love her. I applaud you.
What do you mean?
She has 15,000 a year.
Are you suggesting that the reason I love her is because she has money?
I'm suggesting it's the reason that you should.
George, let us understand each other. My love for Maria has lasted through the years. I love her not for what she has, but for what she is. If she were poor, I would ask her to marry me tonight.
I had no idea that you loved her as much as this.
Well, I hope you understand now.
I do. And I propose to help you.
Oh?
I'm determined before the night is out that you'll be under the impression that you're the happiest man in the world.
How do you propose to do that?
And you shall tell her here in this room of your love for her.
I'll try.
You should have come out. It's a divine night.
Had you and Maria been alone, we would have.
Seem to have drunk quite a nice lot of this.
I'm afraid I did that. Richard let me down. He says that one whiskey and soda in the evening is enough.
I'm glad to hear it.
Maria,
Well,
I apparently said something tonight quite unintentionally which offended and hurt you.
well,
I'm sorry.
obviously you've been drinking.
What makes you say that?
You would never have apologized if you hadn't.
Oh, no, you're wrong. I drank because I was depressed. Richard depressed me.
Who?
Whilst you were in the garden, Richard has been pointing out to me some of my limitations so gently, so understandingly, that I was compelled to listen. He has made me feel that all is not well with George, the 12th Duke of Bristol.
Who?
The simplicity of his nature conquered me. No, I felt that I'd known Richard all of my life.
Do you expect me to believe that in listening to that ridiculous nonsense you have become a better man?
I feel, for the first time in my life, that I'd like to get nearer to nature. I'd like to walk on grass, inhale the scent of flowers, listen to the birds singing their simple songs of love. Do you know, I feel it would help me to find myself more completely.
Try the morning. Birds don't sing at night.
Not for you. Helen, would it amuse you to accompany me into the garden?
I'd love to.
I'm delighted. You'll find me very silent.
I don't mind.
Well, don't you wish to hear the birds singing their simple songs of love?
I rather felt he was exaggerating.
Is that young man drunk? Or has he acquired a habit of borrowing money from women?
I don't understand.
I don't know what's the matter with him, because I know he hates me.
Oh, no, I think you're wrong. He said only charming things about you when you were outside.
Tell me one.
Well, he said you had a heart of gold.
I knew he hated me.
Oh, no, not at all. And many other equally nice things.
Tell me some of the lofty thoughts that have made him wish to walk on grass.
Nothing really. I was describing to him the loneliness of one's life, of living alone. No one to talk to, no one to care for. The utter misery of it all, and the need that men have for the affection of a good lady.
Go on.
It would bore you.
Not at all.
Oh, thank you. Well, I drew a little picture of returning to one's home in the evening.
Where had you been in the afternoon?
Nowhere in particular.
I see. Go on.
And there, seated at one's dinner table, a divine lady who...
To whom you would pass a few pleasant words on your way upstairs to dress to go out to dinner with someone else.
No, not at all. I should stay and dine with her.
Unusual, but interesting. Go on.
I described to him the happiness one would feel in having someone one loved to dine with and talk to, instead of sitting down miserably eating one's food as I do, alone.
Horrid for you. Feeling as you do, Richard, I wonder you don't marry.
Ah,
Meaning?
the love of a good woman is not for me.
Then try one of the others. There are any number of those to choose from.
No. There is and there has been only one woman that I would care to share my life with.
And have you asked her to?
No.
Why?
She is too good. She is too beautiful, too noble for such as me.
If she is as you describe her, I agree. But she may not be quite all those things.
To me, she is.
Tell me more about her. Come and sit down. Come along, come along.
No, I must forever love her from a distance. I must forever worship in silence.
Oh, shut up.
I beg your pardon?
How much longer are you going on beating about the bush instead of coming out in the open like a man and saying, Maria, I love you. Will you or won't you be my wife?
How did you know?
How did I know? Haven't I had to listen to this meandering rubbish every time I ever met you?
But I'd no idea that you knew.
You love me.
With all my heart. With all...
Quite so, but let us proceed. Is your object matrimony or the other?
I would give 10 years of my life to be your husband.
I have no desire that our marriage ceremony should take the form of a burial service. Now, Richard, I want you to know that I am very fond of you.
I can't believe it. Why should you care for me?
You would be wise in encouraging me not to dwell on that.
Quite.
And in addition, you are the only man I know that I would for a moment consider marrying.
Oh, this is too wonderful to be true.
Don't get too excited. You're getting the best part first. Now, you agree to be a successful businessman. One must be practical.
Most emphatically, I do.
Very well, so let us be practical. My income is £25,000 a year.
Many congratulations.
Thank you. What's yours?
Mine?
Yes.
Well, it varies. Sometimes it's up, and then again it's down.
How much is it when it's up?
Do you know, money means so little to me, I really haven't an idea.
Where do you bank?
Anywhere. I simply don't care.
Could you provide for me?
Yes, I could, but I'm not sure that it would be in the way that you've been accustomed to.
Well, I could provide for both of us in the way that I've been accustomed to.
That is true.
So the money is of no consequence.
Quite.
The only question is, would we be happy?
I should be very happy.
As I am going to do the providing, would you mind including me in your conversation? I said, would we, meaning myself, be happy?
My life would be devoted to nothing else. You've known me surely long enough to know that.
Having been married before, I know that it is possible that you are none of the things you appear to be.
I'm described by my friends as a simple fellow.
So was my late husband. He was so simple that I never understood one single thing he did for 18 years. Now, Richard, you said you loved me.
With all my heart. With all...
I love you embraces all that. Now, I have a house in Scotland. What is today?
Tuesday?
Tuesday it is. Yes, Tuesday. Very well. I suggest that you and I, on Thursday night, by the midnight train, travel there for 1 month.
Well, that sounds delightful, but with what particular object?
To all intents and purposes, we will spend a month alone together as married people.
You and I? Spend a month alone together as married people?
Yes.
You're not serious?
I am.
What an extraordinarily good idea. What an intensely good idea.
I'm glad you like it. We will, so to speak, breakfast, lunch, and dine together, just as if we were married.
But this is perfectly delightful. Really, I must congratulate you most sincerely. It's charming. The courage of it.
If at the end of the month I find that you are a pleasant person to live with, that we think alike, as it were, I'll marry you.
And if I'm not, we'll have had a grand time and no harm done.
None.
Really, I can't tell you how highly I think of it. It's daring without being unattractive. It's attractive with no loss of beauty. It's wise without being cunning. No, really, I must congratulate you. I never remember looking forward to anything so much. The courage of it. Oh. If there only were more women in the world like you, what a happy world the world would be.
Finished?
Not at all. I could go on for hours. Do you know, I wish I could decide whether the wisdom or the courage of it appealed to me more.
Finished?
Only for the moment. I'm so struck by the whole idea, I've only been able to half express myself.
Each evening you will hear a clock in the hall strike 11.
Oh, now that is original. Really, I must congratulate you again.
Which will be the signal for you to start putting your coat on.
With what idea?
With the idea of going out.
But I shall have had all the exercise I need during the day. Oh, I know, the dog.
On the hall table you will find a lantern which will help you to find your way to the hotel a mile away.
Precisely for what reason do I go to the hotel?
It's optional, but it's the place where you'll be sleeping.
Oh. So I don't sleep in the house?
You don't.
Oh. What about wet nights?
I should advise your bringing a raincoat. Well, what do you say?
Raincoat. Yes. Well, I must say, I think you'd find out a great deal more about me if I were actually in the house with you the whole time.
I shall endeavour to find out all I need to know without that.
Well, very well.
And I am not in the habit of staying in houses with a man alone.
I trust I'm a gentleman.
I shall be able to tell in a month's time.
I accept, of course. And I should like you to know that I shall do everything in my power to prove to you that your happiness with me is assured.
I don't want you to do anything. I just want you to be natural.
I couldn't be anything else.
Then we leave midnight Thursday.
We do.
You'll call for me and take me to the station.
I will.
Very well. My cloak, please, Richard.
You're going?
Yes, I had no idea it was so late. And make it a rule, Richard, never to be out of my bed after 11:30.
I shall be happy to acquire a similar habit. I see you home.
Oh, it's not necessary. I'll go through the garden. My house is only 20 yards away. Good night, Richard. I hope I shall find you are all that I think you are.
I hope that you'll find I'm a great deal more than you think I am.
Good night.
Good night. Darling.
Hello, darling, I'm off.
Do I or do I not see a happy man?
You do.
She's accepted you.
She has not.
She's refused you, and you're delighted, and so am I.
She has not refused me.
Then what has she done?
That is entirely my business.
Maria has gone away in a terribly good mood, Richard. Am I to congratulate you?
In a way, Helen dear. At all events, you will be able to. A month from today, you will look at me and say, there's a happy man of the world.
Then you are engaged to her.
I tell you I'm not.
Then what are you?
Well, I'm half engaged to her and half married to her.
Has the old woman been trying to find out what effect drink has on
George,
you?
unless you are able to speak of my future wife in prettier language, I shall ask you not to speak to me again.
Why a month from today, Richard?
The position is this. Owing to there being men in the world like George, we are, in consequence, all suspects. I leave on Thursday with Maria for Scotland, that we may spend a month together with the idea of discovering if we possess those things in common that would make for a permanent, happy married life.
You and she go away to Scotland alone together to see if you'll be all right married.
Dislike your phraseology, but the answer is we do.
Very hot.
What do you mean?
Well, isn't it?
I see now why Maria mistrusts all men.
Helen, what do you think of this?
To me, it all seems very unnecessary. Nothing would induce me to go to Scotland at this time of year. If I cared for anyone enough, I should know him so well I'd marry him at once.
I agree. Oh, do play.
I'm sorry, I see Maria's point perfectly. I think she's perfectly right.
But do you think you'll be able to convince her that you're all right, Richard?
I am all right.
Oh, good. I do wish I was going to be there to help you. Maybe. Oh, dear lad. Now, 1 minute.
Anything the matter?
An idea is creeping into my brain.
What do you mean?
Oh, my position in London is precarious. I wish to leave it. It is suggested I should make up my mind on a subject of infinite finality immediately. I do not wish to. A quiet month in Scotland would suit me perfectly.
What? And come and stay with me at my hotel?
Precisely.
Oh, that would be marvelous.
Law me.
No.
Why not?
If Maria knew, she'd strongly disapprove.
Well, she wouldn't know. I would enter my name into the hotel book as Smith. Only my manner and appearance would suggest I am who I am.
I like the idea, but I must think about
No,
it.
it's settled. Richard, I'm coming. I leave on the midnight train on Friday.
No, look, it must be talked over very seriously.
And it shall be. Do you have any whiskey in your rooms?
Yes, I think so.
Then we'll adjourn there. Helen, we dine tomorrow night. I look forward to it very much.
9 o'clock.
To the minute. And thank you for an exceedingly pleasant evening.
Good night, Helen. I can't tell you how happy I am.
I hope you always will be, Richard.
I know I shall.
Oh, come on, Richard. Good night, Helen. Come on, Richard. I'm so you really have got some whiskey.
Now, look, George.
Well, leave the big one there and the small one can go in the front seat. Just on the front seat there. They're plenty in tap will bring them up later on.
Can I see the man?
Yes, please do. Grand. Oh, that's grand. I think I'll have a bit more round, please, Angus. Lovely. Splendid. Handles there, Richard. Grand, and away we go. Ah, smell that air. How nice to see you again. I'm sorry I couldn't leave you too much time. May I introduce you to Mr. Richard Halton? He'll be staying here for the month. Hello, Bessie. Nice to see you. Everything's looking spick and span. Not very keen on those plants there. Now, you see the land?
Yes.
It goes right up and over there.
Of course.
There.
Oh, yes.
You see, and it's right up there. so very dangerous. Oh, bad luck. All right, Richard, next gun, next gun. Come on.
I can't get it in.
You've missed it.
Hey-ho! Hey-ho, Scotland the brave. Hurry along there.
You'll find that.
Yes, well, I think we're home just in time, really, don't you?
Richard, look, who's that?
Who's that? Well,
Over there, over there. Angus, stop. Stop the car. Will you please stop it? Richard, over there. Extraordinary. I could have sworn I saw you.
huh?
A mirage.
What did you see?
It happens occasionally in the moors.
better get
Drive on, Angus, thank you. Right, Angus, drive on.
It won't start.
Why won't it start? But I thought this was service last week before we came up. Mrs. Whistlack. Mrs. Whistlack. Yes, what are you doing out here in that dress like that? And if I have anything, I want to put on a salver and deliver to me in the house. Thank you. Telegram.
Oh, it's from Helen. How jolly. Oh, that'll be nice.
Yes, but how are you going to fetch her from the station? With no car? Come back! Mrs. McNichol, come back! Bessie! I won't sign any references! Hello, Helen. Hello, arrived at a very bad time. Sorry to see you. Richard, will you bring Helen's cake?
Helen, dear.
Hello, Richard.
Do come in. I'll make a cup of tea.
Thanks.
Hasn't that young man you like so much come in yet?
No.
Does he realize those beasts of servants left me at a moment's notice and we are doing all their work?
Of course.
Well, why isn't he here for his lunch at 1 o'clock as you asked him to be?
I'm nervous that something's happened to him.
Nervous that something hasn't. Will you pander to this man, Helen? Makes me ill.
I'm sorry, darling.
You follow him here. You persuade me to let him stay here. You wait on him hand and foot. Oh! You make me so angry I can't speak.
I'm sorry.
There's nothing to be amused about. Having spent 3 weeks with him practically alone, haven't you discovered he's one of the most odious creatures that ever lived?
The only thing that I've discovered is that I'm the happiest woman in the world.
You don't mean to tell me you still like him.
I've never been so happy, darling.
God give me strength. How can you tolerate his unutterable selfishness?
Easily, it's part of his education. But one of the only things the Duke of Bristol is unconscious of is his selfishness.
And realizing that, you still like him? Terrible. Terrible. What's this?
A present for you. An appreciation of my gratitude to you. I telegraphed to London for it the second day I was here.
But for what?
For being the cause of my spending 3 weeks practically alone with dear George.
Oh, it's sweet of you, Helen, dear. And I adore it. And all that I can say is I hope you'll always be as happy as you appear to be now.
Thanks to you, darling, I'm going to be.
I take it he's asked you to marry him.
Not yet, but he's soon going to.
Well, I hope you'll be happy. Richard's been a long time gone in the village.
The hill back from the village is steep and 3 miles long, and owing to your servants leaving you and the car not being ready till this afternoon, he has had to climb it twice today.
But he left here before 12.
It's a steep hill, darling, and 3 miles long.
You would make excuses for anyone. Helen, as a friend, what is your true opinion of Richard?
I'm sure that Richard is the kindest, sweetest man I've ever known.
Yes, that's what he appears to be. Do you think it's genuine?
What do you mean?
You don't think he's merely giving a good impression?
No, I'm sure he's not. But if he is, darling, he's an unusually clever man.
In what way?
You haven't left much undone to find out if he has any particular weakness, have you, darling?
How can you be so horrid? I've never been as nice to anyone as I've been to Richard. Are you suggesting that I haven't been nice to him?
No! How could I suggest such a thing when Richard described you as an angel?
When did he?
Last night, this morning, always when he speaks of you.
Yes. But perhaps he said it hoping you'd repeat it.
You must have discovered very little about Richard to even think that, darling.
Well, I'm glad he said it. Very glad.
Here's George. Isn't it divine to hear him so happy?
Oh, the beauty of it all. Oh, tell me, what is more exquisite than Scotland on a beautiful day?
You.
Thank God nothing's happened to you, George.
Why, did you think something had?
Yes, I did rather. As you went out, I asked you, as there were no servants, to be in to lunch at 1. And when 1:45 came, I began to think something terrible had happened to you. As you knew we had no servants.
Oh, I'm grateful. That's charming. Charming. But the truth of the matter is, I lost myself in my letter to the Morning Post on why England always loses at games. After lunch, I'll read it to you.
That will be divine.
I think it'll cause a sensation.
That you can write a letter at all will cause a great sensation.
You know, writing it has quite exhausted me. I feel quite hungry. Is lunch ready?
Lunch has been ready for 3/4 of an hour.
Oh, no. I hope it's not spoilt.
He hopes it's
I'll
not.
bring it to you, George, dear.
And what have you been doing, Maria, dear?
I have been cleaning up your filthy, untidy bedroom and cooking your lunch.
Ah, well, of course, if you hadn't quarrelled with your servants, you wouldn't have had to do either.
I did not quarrel with my servants.
Well, then they quarrelled with you, which is a mere distinction without a difference.
George,
Yes, Maria, dear.
look at me. Does my face at this moment express anything to you?
No.
Well, there is a hand at my side imploring me to let it smack your stupid face.
I forgive you because I realize that either through their or your fault, you've lost your servants and you're tired.
Oh, heaven help me to remain something of a lady.
There, George, dear.
Oh, thank you, Helen. Some bread?
I'm so sorry.
Oh, by the way, where's Richard?
Richard at this moment is walking up that hill with things that you will eat for your dinner tonight.
Good.
Good.
I do hope he's remembered to bring me my Times.
I hope.
Bread, George, dear.
Thank you. Some butter.
Oh! In the cellar there's champagne, Moselle, hook and claret. Please let me fetch you something.
Oh, you know I never drink at lunch.
Oh, but I want you to. I want you to let me fetch something for you.
If you'll forgive me saying so, I think your joke is singularly unfunny.
Butter, George. You would like some rice pudding?
Well, now, to say I would like rice pudding would be as inaccurate as it would be insincere, but to say I am hungry and I will have some rice pudding is an entirely different matter. Where's the cream?
There is no cream.
What?
Do you know what would give me more pleasure than anything in the world?
I cannot imagine.
To rub your nose in rice pudding.
Even if one is tired to one's own fault, one should try to avoid crudity, Maria.
Beast!
I'm afraid I didn't put quite enough milk in it, George, dear.
I agree. But what it lacks in milk, it makes up for in rice.
Throw it at him.
I can quite see why you lost your servants, Maria.
George, please.
Oh, I haven't said something wrong again, have I?
That is the second time you have insinuated that it is through my fault that my servants have left me.
Well, I'll put it another way. I suggest that one has to like you very much to stay in the same house with you, Maria, darling.
Beast. Beast!
Oh! Oh. 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 It's too early to tell, Helen, but you may have to fetch me a doctor.
Don't be ridiculous. Finish your lunch.
To describe a kick in the face from a horse as ridiculous is to me a little insensitive. Why isn't the damn thing bleeding?
I'm inclined to think it served you right. What pleasure do you derive from always irritating Maria as you do?
I irritate Maria? I'm charming to her. Not once have I, for Richard's sake, told her that she's a disagreeable old devil.
She's not as bad as that.
Why did her servants leave her?
Because
You hesitate. You told me yourself that if you were a servant girl, you'd rather starve than work for her.
I had no idea you'd repeat it so loudly when I said it.
Let her hear it. It'll do her good.
George, please. With all her faults, I am fond of Maria. Richard, my poor sweet. Twice up that dreadful hill, you must be exhausted.
Yes, I am rather. Thank you, Helen. Where's Maria?
In her room?
Oh. Is she all right?
Perfectly.
No, that's not true, Richard. I have some bad news for you.
What, Maria's annoyed with me for being so long?
No. What do you think? She pulled my nose.
Oh, what for?
I have no more idea than you have.
Oh, well, it doesn't seem to have improved it.
I don't, but... As she pulled my nose, I said to myself, if anything will infuriate Richard with her, this will.
Well, it hasn't. And if she pulled your nose, she had some excellent reason for doing so.
And this is the return I get for coming up here and staying with you and remaining under the most extreme discomfort and insults to help you to win her.
Let me tell you something, George. I haven't a chance in the world of winning her, and even if I had, it would be in spite of you. At least 50 times you've nearly damned my chances.
I wish to leave you. Give me my Times.
I haven't had time to get it.
You haven't brought me my Times?
I haven't.
Well, of all the selfish devils...
Silver! I suppose you forgot I told you I wanted those things at once.
Yes, I know I've been a long time. There were so many things to buy.
All right. I expect you met a friend.
Maria, darling, you obviously have no idea what it means to walk up that hill twice in one day.
Nonsense, just what he wants. Does him all the good in the world.
Yes!
Yes. Were you able to buy everything?
Everything.
No, that's not true. He forgot to bring me my Times.
Sit down and try and alter your monotonous voice.
I agree. It drives one mad.
Don't pander to her, Richard, just because you want to make a good impression.
I am being perfectly natural. I agree with her.
Then why did you tell me before we left London that my voice was my chief asset?
Did you tell him that, Richard?
I may have done. I only know if you don't tell him he's something he isn't, he sulks. Gramophone records, darling.
Oh, that was nice of you to bring them. I'm so glad.
I hate gramophones.
You sent my telegram?
Hello.
Richard, you don't mean to tell me you forgot to send it.
I'm terribly sorry. I'm afraid I did.
Oh, this is too bad. Do you realize I won't have a single thing to read for 2 whole days?
Yes, I know. I can't tell you how sorry I am.
What's the use of being sorry? If I'd known you were not going to send it, I should have gone myself. Oh, that's too annoying. But I notice you've brought all the things you want.
Tell her to go to hell.
What did you say?
I said you look tired and not at all well.
No, I'm all right. Really, I am.
Of course he's all right.
Right, dear. I wish you believed me when
All right, please don't worry. It was not important. It was only my books. And I realize it's too much to expect anyone to remember such a trivial thing. I should have gone myself.
If I'd walked up that hill twice and a woman had spoken to me
Well,
like
as
that...
you haven't walked up it once, mind your own business. She asked me particularly to telegraph for her books. I realize it's most disappointing, and I'm terribly sorry.
You make me sick.
I will make you sick, George, if you're not careful.
Helen, I'd like you to walk with me. I'm anxious to read you my letter to the Morning Post.
If you've got any decency at all, you'll send that telegram for Maria.
I walk up that hill because Maria wants to read. Don't be funny. There's a book in this house that she should read. Do you know what it is?
No.
The Bible.
What do you know about the Bible?
More than you think I do. It's full of examples to selfish women.
Any for selfish men?
Yes. Read about Judas, and you'll find he was the type of fellow who was too lazy to bring his friend the Times.
Do you know, you're very nearly an idiot.
Am I? Helen, will you walk?
If you mean it, George.
I don't understand.
So often after I've taken the trouble to change my clothes, you've changed your mind.
Oh, no, I mean to walk.
Very well. I was right when I told you to. You didn't look at all well.
Oh?
May I take part in the joke?
Certainly not. Oh. I met the telegraph boy coming up the hill. He gave me this telegram for you.
Oh, thank you.
Don't you open telegrams?
Not the ones I sent to myself.
What do you send yourself one for?
Tell me your joke and I'll tell you.
Oh, very well. Well, when Helen said to me, "You don't look at all well," I thought she said, "Tell her to go to hell."
I'll have you know, Richard, that my fiancée is not in the habit of using that type of language.
Your fiancé? Are you and Helen going to be married?
Yes, we are.
Oh, I feel hurt. I think she ought to have told me.
Oh, she couldn't. She doesn't know herself yet.
What do you mean?
You may have thought I've been wasting my time here. I haven't. I've been watching her very carefully. And I've come to the profound conclusion that she is in every way a fit person to be the Duchess of Bristol.
Oh, I agree.
She has the disadvantage of having no family behind her, as it were. Her father, unfortunately, was only a prickle maker, but she is by nature a lady. And as I have to marry, I'd rather marry her than anyone that I know. Although I realize at first my family will strongly disapprove.
Oh, I don't see why. Helen's one of the nicest women in the world.
Oh, yes, I agree.
Hey, you didn't tell me you got any cigars.
I only brought 50. Consequently, I only smoked them when you weren't here.
You mean devil.
Only where cigars are concerned. Now, to continue. I am resolved to play my part. In addition to the position I'm giving her, I am going to compel myself to make her a good and faithful husband.
Very kind of you.
Let me tell you this. It's a most unusual thing in our family.
I suppose there's no doubt that she'll want to marry you.
Well, leaving me out of it. Are you suggesting that there's a woman in England who would refuse to be the Duchess of Bristol?
Oh, no, that's true.
Oh, don't be childish. There isn't a mother with an eligible daughter who won't read the news with pain.
True, true.
The relief, Richard, of having made up one's mind is considerable. I can now return to London the same careless fellow that you've always known. Hence that telegram. I'm required in London immediately. I think I deserve a few days' amusement.
Is Helen returning with you?
No. I shall return with you and Maria.
If you care to wait until tomorrow, I may be able to come with you.
What? Are you going to leave the old...
George, Mariah's expecting 2 more servants tomorrow, and if they come, there'll be nothing more than I can do for her.
You're through with her?
The reverse. She's through with me.
Did she say so?
Every time she speaks to me. I get on her nerves, George. The poor dear simply can't bear me. It's a pity, and I'm sorry, but there it is.
Don't be a fool. She's always like
Oh,
this.
George, I've known Maria all my life. I've never known her like this.
Leave her and come away with me tonight.
Oh, no, certainly not. Nothing would induce me to leave her so long as I can be of use to her.
It's noble, I call it. Ah, an idea. The moment I'm married, Richard, you can make our house your home.
Oh, thank you, George. That's very charming of you.
And I'll go further. My word, I am a good friend. I shall insist on Helen making you a small allowance.
Oh, certainly not.
Oh, very well. But never forget that I made you a damned good offer.
It's an offer you should be ashamed of.
Well, I'm not. I'm what an American friend of mine would call a far-seeing son of a gun. It's a nice cigar, Richard.
Very.
I have very expensive but very pleasant memories of women, Richard.
And I've only loved one woman all my life.
It's a pity. You've missed a good deal. Oh, it's fun while it lasts.
Do you know, I've always believed...
Did you know, Molly?
Just.
My word. She was expensive. But she was a very sweet woman. I like Molly. Very much.
Damn it, is a low piece in this house!
That is very, very interesting.
Sorry, Maria. You frightened me. I was asleep.
Really?
You know how one says things when one's half unconscious.
Perfectly. The last person I was married to was frequently in that situation, and I found that was the only time he spoke the truth.
But you know I didn't mean it.
Then why say it?
Oh, good heavens, woman, surely
Don't
you...
call me woman, and don't shout at me. I'm not deaf. And if you must smoke cigars, which I told you I hate, you might at all events try not to drop your ash on the carpet. Get something and clear it up.
Yes, darling.
There's another little bit here. am sorry your afternoon sleep was disturbed by me. Very sorry.
That, I think, has put the lid on it. What would you advise me to do?
I've always resolved never to be concerned at an inquest. She's a most unreasonable woman.
I've never known her like this. I've always believed, when I came away with her, that she liked me. It's a great pity.
Anything the matter?
Yes, there is rather. Being a little tired, I unfortunately fell asleep. Maria woke me with great suddenness by playing the gramophone, with the result that I unhappily inquired if there was no damned peace in the house.
Was she hurt or angry, Richard, dear?
Hurt, I think.
I expect so.
I could kick myself. What do you think the best thing is to do?
Tell her to go to hell. H-E-double-L.
Helen, you don't understand.
Believe me, I do, Richard, darling. There's one of the sweetest men I've ever known. Are you ready, George?
The sun's gone.
You mean you don't want to walk?
Well, of course I want to walk, but I'm thinking of you entirely. The sun's gone. And incidentally, Helen, I've had some very bad news from London.
I'm sorry. It means you'll have to leave for London at once, I'm sure.
I thought of every conceivable way of avoiding it, but alas, there is just no way. I shall literally have to tear myself away tonight.
I'm sorry. So, we don't walk?
If you don't mind too much.
Not at all. I understand.
That's what I like about you, Helen. You do understand.
I hope you'll always think so, George, dear.
I shall, believe me. And you don't mind cigars?
I like them.
Miss Hale. Helen. I am anxious to tell you something which I have given considerable thought to.
Please do.
I hope you won't think that it's the impulse of youth or the lack of much consideration.
I won't, George, dear.
There is only one lady in the world whom I would ask to be the Duchess of Bristol.
That's very interesting, George.
And if you will ask me who she is, I will tell you.
Who is she, George?
You, Helen.
I'm very touched and very flattered.
And I'm very happy.
Thank you, George, dear. And I would like to tell you that I suppose in the whole world there is only one woman who would refuse to be the Duchess of Bristol. And if you will ask me who she is, I'll tell you.
Who is it?
Me, George, darling.
Do I hear correctly? That you're refusing my offer of marriage?
Your hearing is perfect.
You refuse? You refuse to be the Duchess of Bristol?
I do.
May I ask why?
Only because you are the Duke, George.
Only because... Helen! Helen, are you insulting me?
Not nearly as much as you have insulted me.
May I ask why?
You should have only asked me for my money. You should not have included me with it.
Are you suggesting that I only asked you to be my wife because of your money?
But didn't you?
I indignantly, emphatically deny it.
Then tell me the colour of my eyes.
Brown.
Look.
Blue.
So, that was easily settled. I do hope it won't mean you're having to send yourself another telegram, George.
And I thought all this time that you liked me.
3 weeks ago, I adored you. If you'd asked me to marry you, run away with you without marrying you, if you'd asked me anything, I would have done it. I adored you so much.
Then why won't you now?
I've been alone with you for 3 weeks.
Well?
And I realize you're charming until one gets used to you to look at, but nothing else. It's been my greatest disappointment.
I died on you, is that it?
The second day.
The second... Indeed, well, that is not the experience I've had with other women, believe me.
May I be frank?
I insist.
Other women who have known you have put up with your boredom, George, until they got the family jewels, and then they left you. But my case is rather different. I'm not only asked to replace the family jewels, I'm asked to remain with the boredom.
Refuse my offer of marriage if you like, but don't be impertinent.
You asked me to be frank.
Boredom, indeed. I'll have you know, I am invited to dinner parties because I'm so amusing.
A dinner party lasts 2 hours. Marriage has been known to last 2 years. But you're not in that danger, George.
I know you won't believe this, but there are many women who would be delighted to marry me.
I know there are many women who would like to be the Duchess of Bristol. Frankly, I rather wanted to be myself until I spent 3 weeks with you.
Really? How kind.
I know you hate being talked to like this because you're unused to it. But your contribution to life, George, darling, is that you allowed your mother to bring you into the world. And having done that, you are quite satisfied that everyone else who has been brought into it is for the purpose of approving of you.
I'm not aware of it.
Of course you're not. I should be angry with you if you were. But take it from one who once believed she loved you. Your conceit is beyond imagination. Your selfishness has no comparison. May I give you a word of advice?
It depends.
Marry Maria.
How dare you? Oh, no, you're being funny.
Not at all. But for selfishness, you both win the cup outright. She has money, you'd have a grand time.
You know, if a man had said that to me, I'd have knocked him down. Are you suggesting that I have one single thing in
Only
common
your
with her?
clothing distinguishes you.
It's a filthy lie! I have one single thing in common with her.
Nonsense! If you don't get your own way about everything, you sulk. So does Maria. If Richard, who has walked up that hill twice, forgets your times, you are injured. If he doesn't wait on her hand and foot, she is angry. So are you.
I have never let Richard wait on me once.
Only because you've been too busy allowing me to.
I thought you liked it.
You thought I liked waiting on you as though I were a servant.
You never said you didn't.
George, there's one thing I like about you. You are the living illustration of the puerility of bringing a stupid man into the world with a title and taking a useful man out of it without one.
Well, what an escape.
Thank you, George.
No, I was thinking of myself. Phew, I would have asked you to marry me. Anyway, yours is a grand position. I envy you. It's something for a profiteer's daughter to have turned down a duke.
George, many years ago there was a butcher's shop. An august person passing it one day was not attracted by the meat in the shop, but by the butcher's wife. The butcher, with an ambitious eye to a knighthood, encouraged him to pass it frequently, with the result he became a baronet. The butcher's wife was also encouraged. She acquired an ambition, so she left the butcher, with the result a son was born, a duke. So far as I can see, the only difference between our families is my father only profiteered in pickles.
Yeah. What are you laughing at?
You're divine, George, dear. I hope I shall always know you.
Hasn't Richard brought tea yet?
No? Poor darling, is he making tea?
I told him to bring it ages ago. Thought you were going for a walk.
George and I decided that as the sun had gone and as it was very comfortable here, we wouldn't.
Is anything the matter with him?
George has had some rather bad news.
Is it bad enough?
I think so.
That's splendid.
Here we are. A little tea, a little cake, a little toast. And who cooked it, I ask?
And who forgot to send my telegram, may I ask?
All right, I'll go down after tea and send it.
It looks sad all the evening. No, thank you, Richard.
If you'd had the telephone put in, you could have had 1,000,000 books a day.
I am not in the happy position of being able to spend pounds on a telephone that one would only use for a few weeks of the year. But perhaps you are.
You don't look at all W-E-double-L.
Certainly not.
Will you stop that whispering?
Do you begin to see the likeness, George? Where are you going, George?
I'm going to the village.
What for?
I'm going to send that telegram that Richard forgot to send for you.
Have your tea first, George.
Thank you. It's very kind of you, Maria. Thank you.
Any sugar there, Richard?
Sugar? No, I'm afraid I forgot it.
You're tired. I'll get it.
All this before he sets fire to the house?
I don't think so.
Something's wrong with him.
Sorry I've been so long.
George, old dear,
Yes.
are you feeling all right?
Yes. Quite all right.
He's not. You know, his grandmother was a little touched.
Ah! It's pretty, isn't it?
Take it off, Richard. I'm suffocating.
So sorry, Maria. I'd only put it on for your sake. I'll take it off.
George, we've had enough of this.
Enough of what?
This tomfoolery. Can't you see you're frightening Maria?
I'm sorry, Maria. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Really. Forgive me.
Look,
George, careful, old boy, careful.
I'm only going to do the washing up. Please finish your tea. I'm just going to put the kettle on.
What's he doing?
he's kicked the coal scuttle. He struck a match. No, it's all right. He's lit a cigarette. Richard, I'm going to my room. Fetch the doctor and ask him to take him away. And if George asks where I am, tell him I've gone for a long walk.
Long walk?
Very long walk.
What's the matter with him?
Nothing at all. I put him over my knee and smacked him hard for the first time in his life, that's all. Shall I see you before you go, George?
No.
Very well. Pleasant journey. And if ever another girl falls in love with you, marry her the next day. It's your only chance, my sweet.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
She's been hurling those things at me in dozens.
Look, I don't understand a damn word you're talking about. Look, why have you been behaving like an idiot and frightening Maria and all of us?
I wanted it to be known that if I choose, I'm not a bit like Maria. Heavens, that's hurt me badly.
What are you talking about?
Now, don't tell me I'm a liar, because I'm not. What do you think she said to me when I asked her to marry me?
What?
She said that I was an ass. I'm conceited. I'm selfish. I nag. I'm the descendant of a prostitute.
No. No.
I tell you I am. At least she says I am. And I'm a bore. I'm everything that's rotten.
Well, well. I'm amazed.
What about me? What do you think I am?
Are you better?
I was never ill.
Well, I should like to tell you your behavior was perfectly disgraceful.
And shall I tell you why my behavior was perfectly disgraceful?
I should like to know.
I wanted it to be known, once and for all, that I have nothing in common, nor am I in the least like...
George.
Very well, Richard, for your sake. But I'm writing to you, Maria.
It would please me very much if you gave that young man up as a friend.
Oh, he's not a bad fellow. He's just a little...
I should like to think that you had given him up.
Yes, I see your point.
I've had a telegram. Those servants are unable to come.
Oh. Why?
They've sent me an extremely rude telegram, refusing.
Oh, the brutes. No matter. If you'll allow me to, I will continue to do my best whilst you're here.
Oh, thank you, Richard. That's very kind of you. Although we've only been here 3 weeks, I want to tell you something.
It's all right, Maria. I know.
How do you know? Would you please be silent while I speak? What I have to say is a little embarrassing, and you might realize it.
Yes, I know, and I'm sorry.
I brought you here for the purpose of finding out, as you know, that if we married, would there be a chance of us both being happy?
Yes, quite. And now, I would like to say that
Would you please be quiet?
Sorry.
When I left London, I liked you very much. I almost believed that you possessed qualities that would endear yourself to me.
I know.
But I had no idea, Richard, how nice you really are.
What did you say?
What I was going to say when you interrupted me was that you are 1,000 times nicer than I thought you were.
No, 1 minute.
And would you please give me 1 minute whilst I finish what I was going to say?
Sorry, go on.
And I'm not only going to marry you...
What?
But, oh, stop interrupting. You're irritating me very much. But to prove to you how much I trust you, I'm going to settle £5,000 a year on you for life. Are you pleased?
Pleased? I'm delighted.
Ah.
And I thought I'd been irritating you to death all this time. I almost believed that you disliked me. You'd no idea how miserable I've been.
Why?
Well, you were so intolerant, so horrid to me.
Horrid to you? What are you talking about? I've never been so nice to anyone in my life before.
Oh, now, 1 moment. Now, let's sort this out. I mean, you know you did everything you could to provoke me, to see if I was bad-tempered or not.
What do you mean? I wouldn't descend to anything so mean.
Oh, nonsense. You know you did. Just to nag the life out of me, see if I'd answer you back. And 1,000 other things you did.
What are you talking about?
Maria, you don't mean to say that this has been really you all the time?
Of course. Are you mad, Richard?
What, and this is how you'd be if we were married?
Of course.
Heavens be praised.
What for?
How much did you say you'd settle on me, Maria?
5,000 a year.
My income is 300 a year, and I know what it is to feel a millionaire.
Are you insulting me, Richard?
How long did your late husband live with you, Maria?
18 years.
What a man. What a constitution.
How dare you speak to me like that?
If you'd had the slightest idea how you've spoken to me during the last 3 weeks, you'd be sympathetic. Maria, dear, double that 5,000. Treble that 5,000. Give me every shilling you have in the world, and the answer would be no.
I have never been so degraded in all my life.
When I came away with you, I thought of you as I've always thought of you. One of the nicest women in the world. The only woman I've ever liked. But obviously, I've never known you at all. These last 3 weeks have made me realize that you are not, and never have been, one of the things I thought you.
You beast. Go away.
Before I go, Maria, there is one other thing I would like to say. May God bless you for your thoughtfulness and kindness to me.
Maria, darling, what's the matter? Calm yourself, darling. What is it?
He has made me cry.
The brute. And for the first time in your life, darling.
I'm going to my room. I couldn't bear the beast to come in and find he'd been able to make me cry.
Richard?
Has she gone?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Where's George?
Sitting in the kitchen, stunned by the shock you gave him.
Mariah's lying on her bed in the same condition. If anyone had told you and me 3 weeks ago that...
I wouldn't have believed them.
Surely there must be deep down something rather nice about George for me to ever have been able to like him as much as I did.
I suppose there must be about Maria.
Spoilt from the day of his birth. To make him a decent man, he needs 6 months before the mast as a common sailor.
Alone with Maria.
Is there no way, Richard, we could do that for them?
There must be.
Let's think. Darling, you're losing control of yourself again.
I could scream the house down.
Why don't you? It might do you good.
How dare he stay here tonight?
There's no train until 6 in the morning. Surely you don't expect him to wait all night on a cold railway platform, do you?
Yes, I do.
Nonsense. Besides, it's not as though they were annoying you by being in the same room. They're sitting quietly together in the kitchen. Listen, not a sound. You wouldn't know they were even in the house. And Richard will be gone by 5.
Oh, to think that I brought the brute here to find out if I like him, and he has the audacity, the moment I tell him I do, to tell me he doesn't like me.
Outrageous. But wasn't that the idea?
What do you mean? I didn't bring him here to find out if he likes me.
No, silly of me.
Anyway, I don't know which of us is the luckier. I to have lost the vulgar man, or you to have discovered in time that you were anxious to marry a congenital idiot.
George isn't entirely an idiot.
Yes, he is. The word idiot is written in block letters all over his face. Who asked you to come in here?
No one. But I have the alternative of being with 2 extremely unpleasant women in here or 1 strong, silent man in there.
Have you quarrelled with Richard?
Since he ticked off Maria, he's become so conceited there's no holding him.
Is he boasting that he ticked me off, as you call it?
Naturally.
May I ask the sort of things he's been saying about me?
He says he's going to dedicate his life from now on to making you into a decent woman, and he says he's discovered the way to do it.
How dare he say such a thing?
I agree, but he says it can be done.
Let me tell you one thing. If ever I see you again after you leave here at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, and you even dare speak to me, I'll cut you publicly.
If I ever speak to you again, Maria, I hope that everyone cuts me publicly.
Oh, Helen, how can you laugh at that horrid man?
I'm not laughing, darling. I was shocked at his impertinence.
Mrs. Wislack, may I have the key to the alcohol cupboard?
No, you may not.
Very well, but then may heaven have mercy on you.
You villain.
What's he done?
He stood out in the hall, I thinking he'd found a place to avoid some of the drafts, when I discovered he was merely there to listen to your conversation in here.
Huh. Is that true?
Absolutely.
And I am not dull.
Yes, you are.
And I am not a vulgar little man.
Yes, you are.
You are vulgar, you look vulgar, and you're dull. I have a pronouncement to make. My rigor is on the increase.
Did you have that whiskey and soda, as I told you?
No. She, whom you once loved, refused to cough up the key.
She refused. Give me the key to the cupboard that should never be locked.
I will do nothing of the sort.
Give it to me, I tell you.
I will not.
Then you put me in the hideous position of having to reveal myself as a man who's always known what it was.
You have had the audacity to go to that cupboard unknown to me?
Every night since I've come here, I have covered my face, with the exception of that part which is used for drinking, with shame.
You...
Every night you had a whiskey and soda without telling me about it.
Well, you had your cigar, and only because you're cold will I give you one now. Helen, be so good as to fetch him a small whiskey and soda.
She will do nothing of the sort.
Silence. Helen. It's all right. I've put your bags in the car.
How dare you whisper to my late fiancée?
And where are you going?
I'm going to talk to Helen.
Are you going to talk to Helen, or are you going to make that small whiskey and soda I ordered for you a large one?
How dare you, you cad.
Oh, I could cry with shame.
Which is precisely what you are going to do, lovey.
Oh, don't call me lovey, you hateful creature.
Oh, but you are. Maria, dear, during the last 5 hours I have been thinking very deeply, and I have come to 2 conclusions about myself.
I have come to one without thinking.
The first is, I realize you love me very much. The second is, you're right to.
From the moment you came into the room, I thought I recognized the smell of cooking sherry.
And let me point this out to you, that were it not for my constant fidelity to you during the last 15 years, I might be standing here tonight described by the world as the Napoleon of lovers.
On the other hand, it's possible you might not.
True, but I have no regrets. And furthermore, I still propose to remain faithful to the happy memories I have of you before I found you out.
Thank you very much.
My epitaph will be, he turned a woman who in her youth was one of the most unpleasant of God's creatures into, in her middle age, a perfect pet.
Indeed. May I ask what I will be doing whilst you are attempting to do that?
Nothing. You won't know until it's too late.
Will you please tell me what all this means?
It means, Maria, that I've not finally, as it were, given you up.
Talk stupidities if you must, but don't breathe over me. I hate it.
Try as I will, I still care for you.
Don't waste any more of your time.
Oh, nonsense. One word from me, you know you'd fall violently into my arms.
If you don't leave me, I shall, but not in the sense you mean it.
Do you realize, Maria, you are still a very beautiful woman.
I do, and mind your own business.
Oh, but it is my business, because in a month from today you will not only be beautiful, but you will also be one of the sweetest women in the world.
Please don't think me impertinent, but assuming it is necessary, how do you propose to do that?
The facts are in this letter, which it is my intention to place upon the table in the hall before I leave for London.
Give it to me at once.
Certainly not.
Just as you like, anyway. I don't suppose I shall ever read it.
Oh, you will read it again and again, and I have no hesitation in saying that if the instructions in this letter are carried out, it'll make you the woman I thought you were 3 weeks ago. It may even mean that it will bring us such happiness that rather than be separated from each other again, we...
We'll be the first married couple to swim the channel.
Exactly.
Ha! Beast!
Your interest is awakened. That is all to the good.
Go away, I'm going to cry.
Oh, you needn't yet. That's part of the instructions in the letter.
You bully!
Oh, the reverse. One of the most tender-hearted fellows in the world. May I ask what's the matter with you?
There wasn't any soda.
Look at it.
Oh, give me the key. Why did you give it me without a protest?
I have my reasons.
You've drunk it all. If you have, George, you'll pay for it, and you'll pay for it very dearly.
I fear nothing. That's the kind of fellow I am.
Very well.
You're not leaving me with this horrid little creature, are you?
For the moment, I am. I'm going to see if my suspicions are correct.
Boastful brute! Mrs. Whistler, I don't wish to speak to you, but I have to.
I'm terribly sorry, but I don't wish to speak to you.
Would you kindly sit down? I feel less frightened of you when you're sitting.
Say what you have to say, and say it quickly.
Very well. In the cause of both our futures, are you prepared to call a truce for the space of 5 minutes only of our dislike of each other?
The reason?
Love.
"5 minutes.
A few hours from now, Richard and myself will have left this house forever.
Thank heaven.
That's not true. Moreover, if he does leave tomorrow morning, you may lose him entirely. He may never want to see you again.
I hope you won't.
Ah, very well.
Come back. What were you going to say?
Will you stop pretending?
Yes.
Do you like him or not?
Yes.
Do you want him to catch the 6 o'clock train tomorrow morning?
No.
Do you love him?
Don't shout.
Do you love him?
Yes, you beast.
Then why don't you say so?
I suppose a woman's entitled to some modesty.
Not when you're on the verge of losing your loved one.
You look ridiculous enough without looking sentimental. Having discovered all this, will you tell me what it means?
I don't want to leave at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Why not?
In the past 3 hours, I have discovered that I, too, am in love.
With yourself?
If it comes to that...
What's that for?
To remind us that there is a truce going on.
Continue.
I have discovered that I am on the verge of losing one of the world's most exquisite creatures. Forgive me, I close my eyes. I see her divine face, her little hands, her unusual figure.
Oh, shut up.
Oi.
I beg your pardon.
Granted. And as you don't understand romance, I'll be brief. I love her.
What are you going to do about it?
We must first cause a sensation.
How?
I shall simply fling myself to the floor, in the attitude worthy of a sick man, and you will call violently for Richard.
Do you think you can convince him?
Well, as easy as one could a doctor. I mean, he's not very bright.
But how will you do it?
I shall rely on simple groans.
Well, it might work, I suppose. Well, if we're going to do it, hadn't we better begin?
Very well. Now, the mise en scène is important. How about here?
Oh, that's too comfortable. You said the floor.
Oh, you know. Hey, whose side are you on?
My own. I want this to work. Whoever heard of anyone collapsing onto a cushion?
Well, I should have thought it was the minimum requirement. However, let it pass.
Are you ready for me to scream?
Yes. No, wait. At the right moment, I shall pretend to feel a little bit better and ask Richard to help me up to my bed. That'll be your opportunity, Maria, to bring conviction to our plan by showing some practical solicitude for my welfare.
What are you talking about?
Well, for instance, I've forgotten my hot water bottle. You could offer to lend me yours.
Well, if I did, they'd smell a rat immediately.
Well, perhaps if there's a little Benjers in the house, some brought to me on a tray might not be unconvincing.
I suppose you wouldn't like a band from London?
And to be absolutely certain of success, you may find yourself having to wait on me a good deal.
I knew from the beginning you'd get the better of this.
Mrs. Westlack, will you please call Richard? And kindly remember that I have undertaken the intelligent part.
Ready?
Yes.
Richard! Richard!
Darling, what's the matter?
It's George.
He's been rude to you.
No. I'm wondering if he'll ever be rude to anyone again.
George, darling, whatever's happened?
Kiss me, Hardy.
He must be delirious. It's George, poor darling. We were sitting here talking when suddenly he clutched his heart, screamed with pain, and fell violently to the floor.
Good heavens.
Richard, help him. I'm so worried.
Yes, all right, Helen, dear. I'll do whatever I can.
Oh, where am
I
I?
don't know.
Mother!
He's hysterical. You're overdoing it.
So you... Oh, where's my good friend, Richard?
Here I am, old boy.
Oh, Richard, help me to my room. I feel I haven't long.
Oh, don't say that, old fellow.
Oh, forgive me, Maria. Forgive me, Helen.
Is he terribly ill, do you think?
He's terribly. Nice little man. I feel so upset.
I shall go to him.
No, don't. Unless I'm very much mistaken, he is, at this moment, persuading Richard to help him take his clothes off for him.
I wish I hadn't been so horrid to him.
Oh, he's forgiven you, I'm sure. Nice little man. I misjudged him terribly.
Why doesn't Richard come back and tell me?
I gather you still like him.
Yes, I do. Something about George you can't help liking, try as you will not to. Oh, why doesn't Richard come back?
Patience, Helen, dear.
But I may be able to do something for him.
Helen.
Quickly, how is he?
Splendid.
Splendid? How can a man be suddenly splendid who collapsed on this floor a moment ago as he did?
Too healthy, I expect.
What do you mean?
Pulse is normal, no temperature.
But shouldn't one of us go and fetch a doctor?
Oh, yes, that's a good idea. I'll go and tell George to do it.
Oh, you horrid, unsympathetic man.
No, not at all. Oh, and I made a marvellous suggestion to him. I pointed out that in the event of this being a long illness, how much nicer your room would be than the one he was in.
Did he agree?
I didn't say, but it's in your bed.
I'm glad.
Oh, and I nearly forgot. In the midst of some rather curious noises, which I took to be singing, but which he explained to me were groans, he asked me to send you to him at once.
Why didn't you tell me that before?
Well, I was so upset to see poor old George looking so well.
I would never have believed that there could be anyone in this world so cruel and unsympathetic as you are.
Now's our chance.
Will you explain to me what all this means?
George doesn't want to leave you tonight.
He's only pretending to be ill.
Twice he had to put his head under the pillow to prevent himself from laughing. Another hour, nothing will be able to get away from here.
Maria told me the other day that she and her husband were once snowed up here for 3 weeks.
Let us pray that this time it will be for a month.
Is it fair to take the car and leave them without a chance in the world of getting away from here?
Fair. It's the kindest thing that's ever been done to them. Such hell as a month alone here together will make them the nicest people in the world.
It's a cruel thing to do.
What do you mean you don't want to leave George?
I don't very much.
Do you love him?
I think I do.
Then for heaven's sake, do this for them. And then I believe I shall be able to show you the two people we thought we liked.
But it may kill them both.
It'll cure them both. Thank heavens I shan't be here when she reads that. Are you ready?
Yes. I hate doing it, but I know you're right.
I know I am.
Poor darling George.
Poor sweet Maria.
Richard? Richard?
Has no one got the decency to come and see a dying man? What is it? What is it? Maria and George, the snow is a foot deep. It will be deeper tomorrow. At heart, you are both very nice people, but what you need is 6 months before the mast as common sailors, to suffer the degradations of the poor and know the humiliations of their hardships, so that you may suffer all these things and more. Helen and I leave you alone. We pray for at least a month.
Stop them! Stop them quickly!
Oh! Oh, come back!
Why did you stop them?
Look, I can't run at 40 miles an hour.
Have they gone?
Even the lights of their car have disappeared. I'd never speak to either of them ever again.
Nor shall I. If I have to stay alone in this house with you, I shall go mad.
Have you ever been snowed up here before?
Once, for 3 weeks.
Oh, heavens. Will no one have mercy on us and come and deliver us from each other?
Nothing. Nothing will be able to get up that hill.
And you and I here alone, together, until that stops?
Yes. I shall go to bed until it does.
You needn't bother to lock your door. Only the snow will want to come in.